Hey guys, welcome back to Tidal Gardens. I am finally back from my trip to the UK this past week. It was a great trip, packed with a mix of work and play for all 7 days, and I'm just now getting over the jet lag. You may be wondering how I even ended up going over there, because if you follow my live streams at all, I almost never travel for stuff like this, let alone all the way to Europe. The last time that I was in the UK, I was a high school junior, so this trip was long overdue. Basically, a bunch of things all lined up, and it made sense for me to make the trip out. I'm really glad that I did. I had a lot of fun, and I met a lot of new people. In this video, I'm going to focus on the reef-related stuff and leave out the recreational aspects of the trip. If you're curious about that stuff, you might get a glimpse of that from my social media or from some of the others that I saw on the trip, like the guys from Fritz Aquatics or Ecomarines. Speaking of Ecomarines, they're a UK-based coral wholesaler and are seriously some of the best hosts ever. I stayed with them the whole trip, and their generosity was truly over the top. So a special thank you goes out to Laura and Mike for looking after me and taking me all around London with them. Okay, on to the reef stuff. The first event that I attended was the very first frag show in the UK called Coral Freaks. For a first-time show, it was very impressive. It was organized by an LFS in the area called Advanced Aquarium Consultancy, or AAC, and they got a really good group of speakers as well as equipment manufacturers and coral sellers, including Ecomarines, to exhibit there. The turnout was very good, exactly 300 people. Now, how do I know? Well, tickets were limited to 300 people, and that was done for fire code and parking logistics, and from what I understand, it sold out weeks in advance. One of the big draws was Dr. Jamie Craggs from the Horniman Museum, who pioneered research in the field of acropora coral spawning. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting with him and talking about what it takes to do it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do a quick search for his MACNA talk and check it out. It's fascinating stuff. I really want to give it a try myself, but after talking with him about the process in detail, I understand now why nobody really does it. I might dedicate a tank or two to the project, but the work involved, woof. I also got to meet David Saxby, who's the owner of D&D Aquatics and the owner of possibly the most famous privately owned reef aquarium. I wasn't able to visit his house on this trip, but he did invite me to come see it for the next time that I'm in the UK. The real treat at the show was the fact that AAC was located in the same building complex as the event center hosting Coral Freaks. The store has some amazing show tanks and a beautiful coral farm setup. The systems that I saw in the UK did not seem fundamentally different from the way that we keep tanks here in the US. If anything, I would say that the difference was in how tightly controlled their chemistry is. For example, on this show tank, I saw a few different methods of monitoring and maintaining good chemistry. There's a small calcium reactor handling the bulk of the workload, but there was also an alkatronic unit as well as a dosing system. I think I also saw a carbon filter and a phosphate sponge to lower the overall nutrient load, and from what I understand, there's frequent ICP testing. In general, I got the impression that ICP testing was a lot more prevalent here, and that kind of inspired me to do more of that on my own systems, because truth be told, I have never done one on any of my systems before. Alright, let's take a look at some of these show tanks, starting with this really large mixed reef. Next up is this soft coral-dominated reef tank. I really like the daylight coloration that's going on here. We're so used to seeing so much actinic whenever we look at reef aquariums. So it's really refreshing to see a reef aquarium predominantly lit by daylight coloration. And I think it works really well, especially with these soft corals. This is a smaller show tank. And the one thing that I noticed about this immediately was just how healthy the clavularia in the back is, the clove polyps. In my tank, they kind of struggle just a little bit, but here you can see just how thick and bushy they are. While visiting AAC, I got asked a number of times what I thought of the availability of high-end coral in the UK versus in the US. And I think it's a case of the grass always seems greener on the other side. Now, I'm sure that the US has a lot more variety overall, but there's no question that a lot of the corals that I'm seeing here are absolutely top end. And the selection here is nothing to scoff at. Take, for example, this Bernardophora. It's also sometimes called a madrassus. It's not really a madrassus though, but sometimes it's referred to as one. I've only seen this one other time, and we used to have a small piece. It didn't do nearly this well. So there's a few lessons that we can learn from how the guys in the UK are setting up these systems. Lastly, let's check out their farming operation. This is in a separate area away from the retail side of things. I'm not even sure if this part is open to the public, but AAC is growing out some really nice high-end corals back here. Towards the end of my UK visit, I went to Telford, which is about 3 hours away from London, to attend the AQUA 2019 show. There, Ecomarines shared a large booth with several other brands, such as Fritz, Abiz, Real Reef, Rossmont, Senai, and a few others. I got asked a lot what I thought of the show, and it was really impressive. It had both fresh and salt water, but it was only for the industry, so there was no attendees from the general public. Industry only. Still, there were a lot of people at this event. If I had to compare its size and scale, I would say that it's about the size of a Machina. Now, I don't have a lot of footage from this show, because I got a very different vibe when I was here. In the US, if I go to a trade show, I would make a company's day by breaking out my camera to shoot for my YouTube channel. Here, though, the booths were much more reserved, and honestly, oftentimes they did not appreciate being filmed. It's a big cultural difference from what goes on in the US. So, my take on it is, you don't want me to film, that's cool. I don't really want to film either, so I spent the bulk of my time just talking to the company reps. There were others filming at the event, so if you're curious to see what the show looked like from their perspective, check them out. Off the top of my head, I know that Coralfish 12G was filming there. I met Charterhouse Aquatics, and Aaron's Aquariums was there too. There were several other UK channels that I met, so if they happen to see this video, please feel free to drop a link to your video of the event in the comments below. That pretty much does it for this short video of my trip over to the UK. I had a great time and have a lot of people to follow up with here. Thanks again to Ecomarines for hosting me during my visit. So guys, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with all the goings on here at Tidal Gardens. I've got some coral spotlight videos that I'm working on here, so you have that to look forward to. Until next time, happy reefing.